So tonight I would like to share a short video about my journey, my health journey since March of 2023, and I'm going to do it in the English language best I can. My English sometimes becomes like airtime, it runs out, but I felt the need to share my story from both a faith point of view and also what I actually experienced and learned and was taught by God through this process up to now. Just trying to get this camera angle a little bit better so I don't have to lean forward. So if you bear with me, sorry for the movement, I'm just trying to get the best angle possibly to do this video with. So in January we decided to go see a specialist to possibly do a hip replacement, something that I knew from my 20s that needed to be done. And while I was at the specialist who treats or does the operations for hip replacements, he put me on some medicine first. For the expectation was that happened in February. The expectation was that we'll be on the medicine for about 6 weeks, re-look at the medicine, and then come back to him and make a decision on the way forward. But during this time, using this particular medicine for acid, maybe some of you know the medicine that I will mention now. It's Puricos. I got terribly ill, to the point where the pain was completely unbearable. I didn't understand what was happening. Now the medical people will tell you that Puricos first makes acid a little bit worse before it starts working. But this was excruciating pain that I endured during the course of that period. And then at one point I had no choice but to be rushed to the emergency room at Eugene Marais Hospital in Pretoria. So my vitals was so bad at that point that they decided to keep me in the hospital. And the surgeon was called in to look at me, a general surgeon, and to see what the problem was. And during this whole process, I got to a point where they were doing all kinds of tests, and they got the pain under control, but they still weren't sure what was causing the pain, and they tried every avenue, scans, etc., etc. So on the first scan they picked up what they called almost like a blister on the liver at that point in time, and they decided to do a biopsy of the liver, because they could see this so-called blister on the liver, but they weren't sure. So about 2 weeks after I was released from hospital, feeling a lot better, but still being aware of the pain, they called me back and said, we need to talk. Got to the surgeon and he showed me the pictures, and I must tell you, I never understood the emotions of people being confronted or challenged with something like cancer. And while I was sitting in front of this doctor, he very nonchalantly announced that I've got cancer. I can't explain what happened internally, what happened with my emotions. The shock at that point in time was, there's nothing I can compare it to. I've never experienced something like that. It's almost like whatever he said after that was just gone. And I'm a man of faith. I believe, and I've seen God do miracles in my own house with my son during the kidney transplant almost 11 years ago. So it's not that I'm not a person of faith, but as a human being at that point in time, I truly just experienced so much shock, and because it's not you, these things don't happen to you, it happens to other people. You are fine. So after the initial shock and sharing with the family and sharing with the church, people started praying, and I was referred to the oncologists, who then did further studies through PET scans and quite a number of stuff that they so I had to go for the PET scan and another one that's similar to the PET scan twice before they decided they're going to give this cancer a name. So the particular cancer that I'm having a challenge with, but I know that God has already started the healing process, is a neuroendocrine tumor cancer. So it's an hormone called chromogranin that spiked in my system. The levels for any normal person should not be higher than 101. Mine was at 1,499 at the first measurement. Initially, they told me that it's not a death sentence, but it's a lifelong treatment process, and it will become like a chronic disease that I will have to treat for the rest of my life. And initially the plan was just to put me on Sandostatin, which is a injection that you got monthly to decrease the hormone, keep it under control, and in the hope that the tumors that by that time was in the liver, 4 lymph nodes, and in the pancreas, that they will decrease as the hormone decreases. So we had to wait for medical aid approval. I thank God for medical aid and the person that's sponsoring my medical aid at the moment, and I will talk about the effect of cancer on your general life and your work, etc., shortly. So for 4.5, almost 6 weeks, it was more closer to 6 weeks, we waited for an approval, and I felt how I was going backwards in that period. Initially they told me it's a very slow growing cancer, not aggressive at all, but in that 6 weeks something happened. I got the first injection after I had a little bit of a argument with the medical aid, because they have different people that have to approve, and because it's cancer, it's going through a panel, and the panel is not part of the medical aid, etc. And eventually, when I got ill, the injection was approved, and I did the first injection. But about 2 weeks after receiving the first injection, I was really in a bad state, to the point that I actually felt that this is it, I'm done, I'm going home. And I had peace. I still have peace. I mean, God has His plans for our lives. We can't question Him. But I made peace on that Thursday afternoon that this is probably the way that I was now gonna go home, go to heaven, go to be with the Father. And driving away from here with my wife in terrible shock, she had to drive me to hospital. I've never ever in my life experienced that amount of pain, the levels of which I can't explain to you. That death would have been a blessing at that point in time. And I actually told my wife to phone the kids so that they can come to the hospital. So that evening in Eugene Marais, in the trauma unit again, in 10 minutes they injected me 4 times with very high dosage opioids, which still didn't release any pain. And then after that they gave me some more pain meds, which later on helped me to fall asleep, and I woke up in the oncology ward, and I was taken up in hospital, and the pain on my stomach I can't explain. So next day they did some more scans, and the cancer spread over the stomach, between the stomach and the intestine. The cancer spread to the bottom end of the pancreas, etc. So it was a excruciating 2 or 3 days in the hospital, and I thank God for a doctor that has faith, a doctor that also believes in supernatural healing, but also somebody that encouraged me to make peace with God and the process that I'm going through. So they decided to start with chemo. I'm on Estupid on Mondays every session, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday I'm on Globarten, I think, if I have the name correct, which is a very aggressive. Mondays are not that bad, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays is quite a aggressive chemo that I get, and this happens every 21 days. So you just almost just recover from the first session before the next one starts. And so the first session was in hospital while I was taken up in oncology ward in Eugene Marais, and I left the Wednesday afternoon. They sent me home, and I felt okay, and we fell asleep that night. But my wife, shame the poor thing, she's still suffering from some shock due to this process. So that night or early morning around 2 o'clock, I woke up, and it was like my bladder was extremely heavy and full. Now, sorry if you're squeamish, I need to tell you the details so you can understand that now I have a better understanding of the pain that people with this illness are going through, and my prayer life in terms of that has changed. And I woke up and I told my wife I don't feel well, and I went to the gents, and as I was urinating, it was pure blood, to the point where my heart was beating in my throat. I was actually thinking, okay, now you're really done. And phoned the hospital, and they were all calm, and they said I need to keep on drinking water and come in around 5 o'clock, which I did. And again, I was taken up into the oncology ward, and they thought that it was, what do they call it, bleeding caused in the bladder due to the chemo, which is a very dangerous thing. So the next day, the kidney specialist saw me, because on the right hand side, on my right kidney, I felt extreme pain the day after that. The chemo actually diluted or pushed a kidney stone out, which caused the bleeding. And I was again in hospital for about 5 days. Second chemo arrived 21 days later, and on day 1 you're fine, on day 2 you're fine, on day 3 you're fine, and then on Thursday around lunchtime it's like 100-ton hammer hitting you between the eyes, and you actually battle to keep your eyes open. And the second round I had so much pain and nausea that I used the morphine, I think that's what it's called. The actual medicine's got another name, but that's what it is. I took that and just slept for about 3 days. Couldn't eat. Even the smell of food made me nauseous, and the poor wife couldn't make anything to eat at home. But during this whole process, I started a little support group on WhatsApp, and I got these people to pray for me, and I also asked for some financial help. Now let me just explain that to you. I am the sole breadwinner in this household, and due to the economic structure of this country, I actually don't have a place in the official economy. So I started a business 5 years ago with my partner Clement van Rooyen, who passed away almost a year ago. That's another sad story on its own. So to survive in business, you have to be active. And what this illness has done for me, it's brought me to a point where I actively work about 10 days a month. And that's why I consistently ask for those who can. I understand that this economy it's nowhere close to where we want it to be, or where people make a comfortable living, and I'm trying my very best. Some days I can put in a full day, other days I can only work it until about 12, other days I don't work at all, and it's not because of laziness, because the one thing people can never blame me for is unwillingness to work. My whole life through, I think in my whole career, professional career, before I started the business, I can maybe count on my two hands the amount of days I took off work for sick leave. So I'm not lazy. I'm really in a position where this cancer has put some challenges across my road to keep me afloat. So I'm thanking again everybody that supports and that gives. And it's not the amount that you give that matters. It's the willingness to extend a hand, and a hand to somebody that can't necessarily give back, but I will pay it forward. So today I did the third session was 21 days ago. And during the third session I was expecting this hammer on Thursday to hit me again, and being very, very ill, and we had a special service coming up with Pastor Rolf Galvin, and I was really, really concerned that I would not be able to attend and be a part of that, etc., etc. And we prayed a lot, and I know the support group prayed a lot. Now this is where I'm telling you that faith is a real thing. So on Thursday, now, because of my experience, I expect something to happen. So Thursday I'm waiting, nothing happens. Friday I'm waiting, nothing happens. I don't get ill. I don't get the nausea. I have some pain in my legs and I'm tired. That's it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the same thing, and I could actually attend and be a part of the two services on the Saturday and the Sunday morning. Now, that can only be God. When I told that to the doctor today, when I went for the fourth session of 6 that is planned, but there was some good news today as well. And I told him that I wasn't ill during after the third chemo session. He said to me, that's very strange. He hopes that it's the same this time. So I'm not just hoping, I'm believing God that it will be the same this time around. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers. And even where possible, support me when you can and how you can. There were people during this time, and I don't want to mention names because I don't want to put people in the spotlight or in the fear of maybe missing out on somebody that was helping me. So there's the BackaBuddy process that we started. I aimed at 150,000, which sounds a lot, but I got to a point now where my medical aid is drained for blood tests. So I'm starting to get accounts for that. If they do it in hospital, there's no account. But now every time before I go for chemo, I must do blood tests on the Sunday before I go. And that's starting to accumulate. So it's not a matter of me sitting back hoping for people to just, carry me. I'm out there when I can. I'm selling vehicles, wholesale, between dealers, from private people to dealers, etc., etc. I'm doing a bit of auctions on the side, looking for trucks, equipment, trailers, any movable asset that can be converted to cash flow. I've got the hunting business that's now stood still this year because of the situation I'm in. So it's a plead and a thank you for everyone that's done their bit. I know it's challenging times for everybody. It's not easy out there. And I don't blame people that can't help. I don't at all. But I am super, super, super appreciative of everyone that prays and people that do contribute. I've got some tannies in the church that would contribute 50 Rand at a time. That sounds like nothing. But when you're in this position, that's a lot of money. So I must tell you that God's been good, even though this process has not been easy. It's been one hell of a road. This 5, almost 6 months has been up and downs emotionally. Although I'm a person of faith, you can't help to at times get a little bit depressed or concerned. You can't help to think about what if. But then you have to pull yourself up by your socks, proverbial English proverb. I don't actually know how you do that, but anyway. And you have to get your head straight, and you have to focus on God, and you have to accept that He's got the best plan for your life, although it might not seem like it now. He's got the best plan for your life. And if that includes death, then that's what you have to accept. But I now understand that after today, God's busy healing me. Some of the good news for me, not for my wife, is I've picked up some weight. So in the spirit, at one stage I was below 90 kilogram. I can't say how long ago because I'll be lying, but it was there. And then today I weighed in at 104. Maybe that's not good news. Maybe it's my shoes that are too heavy. I've got some heavy shoes. I don't know. Or maybe it's the armor of God that's that heavy. So saw the doctor. He's very impressed with the blood tests. Very impressed with the progress of the treatment. To such an extent, I would have gone for the 6 chemo sessions before they would have done another PET scan to see what's happened to the tumors. He's now today changed his mind. In 3 weeks' time, I'll go for my 3rd PET scan. And if, and I know they have, the cancers has cleared up enough, or they are gone totally, which I believe is the case, they will put me on a different treatment, like something to just manage the maintain, what was his words today, to keep this in check. So that will be less intrusive on my health. That will be less intrusive on my life, because at this point in time I'm going day by day. And so I do ask you to spread the message, spread the word. The link is out there. If you know of people that can assist me to just make it until the end of the year. By the end of the year, I believe that by October I'll be finished with treatment, maybe even earlier. And then I need to get all of these chemicals out of my system. I need to train up a little bit because I've lost muscle mass in my legs and my arms. I don't have strength in my grip, and sometimes I feel my legs are a bit weak when I do stairs, etc. And actually my legs was also all the time a strong in my system. My legs were quite strong. So I appreciate everyone asking and sending prayers and sending love and sending support. So I believe God is there, and He does what He wants to do in His own time, in His own way. I had the privilege to spend some time with Pastor Peter Potgieter this afternoon, and what a blessing that was to understand that God's timing is very important. So some has apparently spread the news that I've been buried. Some already spread the news that I died. I don't care. I'm alive. And God is my healer. God is my banner. Jesus is my hope. So if you don't believe in Jesus, sorry, I'm not trying to offend you, but that is the actual fact of the matter. God is my healer. Jesus is in control of my life. There were people that brought soup and food and meat and just on the right time. It's amazing that sometimes I was concerned, will we get to month end? Will we have enough to eat? Will we be able to pay our commitments? And then every time when I think to myself, what will be the next thing that's going to happen? God will provide out of the blue. Sometimes from even origins that I did not expect. So this has been a well worth difficult, but a well worth road to go on. And so God started talking to us to read Job, the book of Job, in the mornings. And this afternoon, without Pastor Peter knowing that we're there, we're doing that, he confirmed that is where God wants to speak to me from. And we are studying the book of Job, the wife and me, and I must also give her some glory and honor tonight. She's been looking after me like a champion. I woke up some evenings with a fever running almost into the 40s, and I would have her standing over me praying, and when I'm better during the early morning hours, I could feel her making sure I'm fine, pulling the blanket over me. And it's really also been tough on her. And let's pray for her as well. She's my rock. She's my anchor in this process. And I thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the message. I wanted to share some hope, but I also wanted to share some of my experiences during this journey. And not every journey has come to destroy us. Some journeys has come to teach us. Now, we all have some people out there that don't like us. I don't care, because Jesus loves me. And He will do anything within His will and within His desire for me to keep me alive. I give Him all the glory, and I thank each one of you that prays, that assists, that sends encouragements, and that's just there for me, sometimes just to listen. God bless you, and thank you for listening.